Hey everyone, and welcome back to another video for today. So, Nvidia shareholders must have been extremely happy in the last couple of days and weeks. We've had quite a lot of announcements, deals that have been made in the UAE, in Saudi Arabia, and then more recently we've had that Jensen Huang talk during Computex. And it's not just the Nvidia keynote, every other, let's call it Nvidia partner, did talk about, well, the upcoming Blackwells, the Nvidia platform. So definitely we've had a lot of crucial information, but in this video I do want to focus on what Jensen Huang said, more specifically also talk about the NVLink Fusion, why that's a big deal, how is that important for, well, players like Qualcomm, and what that could mean for companies like Intel and AMD. So we're going to talk about that. By the way, Nvidia stock is up 40% over the last month, so congrats to all of you that have picked up shares of Nvidia at 100 or even under $100. Right now we're at $134.5, a market cap of $3.3 trillion. So before continuing, if you enjoy this type of videos, hit all the buttons, especially the subscribe one, really appreciate that. If you want to support me even further, do check out the link down in the description and in the pinned comment with the top 10 best stocks to buy now, or go to fool.com/couchinvestor. Thank you very much. Now, I think a couple of hours before this went live, maybe an hour or so before this went live, Elon Musk was talking to CNBC, I believe, and he did say that XAI is expected to have 1 million of Nvidia's GPUs. All right, so let's first talk about the big announcement, which was, in my opinion, NVLink Fusion. That's a new silicon and ecosystem initiative that opens Nvidia's high-speed NVLink interconnect to third-party CPUs and custom AI accelerators, not just Nvidia's own chips. Now, why is that important? Well, because now data centers can combine Nvidia's GPUs and CPUs and ASICs from partners like Qualcomm, MediaTek, Fujitsu, and others, all communicating over the same ultra-fast NVLink fabric. This enables semi-custom AI infrastructure tailored to specific workloads rather than a one-size-fits-all systems. This, of course, will expand the ecosystem. Partners like MediaTek, Marvell, Alchip, Astera Labs, Synopsys, and Cadence are already building custom silicon for NVLink Fusion. Qualcomm and Fujitsu can now directly connect their CPUs to Nvidia's GPUs in AI data centers, breaking down the barrier between competing chip architectures. Now, I'll talk a little bit more about the Qualcomm side of things later down the line. And this technology also allows for standardized rack designs and easier scaling, making it faster and more cost-effective to deploy AI factories at cloud scale. So NVLink Fusion is a tectonic shift. For the first time in decades, I'd say. Data centers can be fundamentally re-architected. AI is being fused into every computing platform, and Nvidia, of course, is positioning itself as the hub, the central piece here of this new ecosystem, even when competitors' chips are involved. And this is a very, very strategic decision by Nvidia. Of course, this lets, let's say, competitors participate, but this also means that more and more people, companies, will just be sucked into that Nvidia ecosystem. Then they introduced a couple of new products such as the Grace Blackwell Ultra server, the Nvidia RTX Pro servers, the desktop for all DGX Spark, a desktop AI workstation that will be available in the next few weeks or so, making high-performance AI computing more accessible to researchers and small enterprises. They then talk more about the software side of things and the platform ecosystem. So CUDA-X, they highlighted the explosive growth of the CUDA-X platform with a vast and growing ecosystem of developers and libraries. This is, of course, fueling innovation across industries and making Nvidia's stack increasingly indispensable. They also introduced new storage solutions and reference designs for modern AI workloads, leveraging the RTX 6000 Pro Blackwell Server Edition GPUs. And then on the robotics side of things, they announced new tools and partnership with DeepMind and Disney to accelerate robotics development, including the Newton Physics Engine and Isaac GR00T humanoid robot foundation models, which is something that we've heard about already during GTC. Jensen also said that Nvidia will open a new office in Taiwan, and it's partnering with Foxconn on an AI supercomputer project, reinforcing its ties with the region's manufacturing ecosystem and supply chain resilience. Leading manufacturers like TSMC, Foxconn, Wistron, and others are using Nvidia's Omniverse to build digital twins, driving the next wave of industrial AI. Then he talked a little bit about the GeForce RTX 5060. Now going back to the NVLink Fusion and why that's important, why that changes the game for players like Qualcomm and MediaTek. So in the past, Nvidia's NVLink was a closed ecosystem, only available for Nvidia's own GPUs and CPUs. Now, with NVLink Fusion, companies like Qualcomm and MediaTek can build their own CPUs or AI accelerators and connect them directly to NVIDIA GPUs in the same rack with full access to the NVLink ecosystem speed and efficiency. Qualcomm specifically can now integrate its custom CPUs optimized for mobile, edge, or specific AI workloads into NVIDIA-powered AI factories. This means Qualcomm's chips can participate in high-performance AI training and inference, leveraging NVIDIA's GPU leadership without being locked out of the ecosystem. For MediaTek, they historically focused on consumer and edge AI. They can now scale up by building custom AI silicon for cloud-scale workloads, all interoperating with NVIDIA's infrastructure. This opens new markets and use cases for MediaTek, from hyperscale data centers to specialized AI services. Now, as for the rest of the industry, for example, also AMD and Intel, well, NVLink Fusion effectively removes the walled garden approach, enabling more innovation, faster deployment, and broader industry participation. NVIDIA still controls the fabric and ecosystem, but now even its rivals can plug in and benefit, while NVIDIA retains a central orchestrating role. This, of course, puts competitive pressure on other interconnect standards and on companies like AMD and Intel, who must now respond to a more open, flexible, and high-performance AI infrastructure paradigm. Although I'd say AMD and Intel have been working on open source for quite a while, although I know it's not exactly the same, but they've been trying to catch up by being open source and less of a walled garden ecosystem. And now currently, of course, NVLink Fusion is a negative for the likes of Intel and AMD because they're not included in the initial wave of partners. Now, this could make their CPUs and accelerators less attractive for customers building next-generation AI factories with NVIDIA GPUs, as those customers may just prefer CPUs that can take full advantage of NVLink's Fusion bandwidth and ecosystem. Now, for Intel, I'd actually say that maybe Intel has a higher chance to be included on that list. AMD may be a bit less, and maybe AMD is going to be just more aggressive when it wants to compete with NVIDIA. Intel being so much behind, I think they might actually get a chance to be included. And to be honest, that could be very, very good for Intel, but that's just speculation on my part. And of course, more recently, we're going back here to the NVIDIA topic, we've had CoreWeave report, we've had Nebius report, of course, talking about AI data center infrastructure build-outs. CapEx is huge, in the billions of dollars for both of those companies. And of course, most of those dollars will flow to NVIDIA. Most of the dollars commitments that we've heard from Saudi Arabia, Humain, the UAE, you name it, are of course going to flow to companies like NVIDIA, like AMD as well. AMD and Humain, we actually had a dollar figure that was $10 billion. So yeah, it might be a $3.3 trillion company, but sorry to say to the bears, there is still very little indication that they're losing momentum or that growth is going to come to an end. Of course, we're not going to see the 100% year-over-year growth anymore, or even the 100% quarter-over-quarter growth, or 80% that we've seen at the start. But this is still a company that is expected, if we look at the revenue expected to growth for the next 2 years, and that's on a compound annual growth rate, 37.7%, and EPS growing approximately the same. This is a company that's worth $3.3 trillion. There are companies worth just $1 or $2 or $3 billion that don't grow this fast. Right now, yes, you're paying a trailing PE of 46.1 times and a forward one of 31 times. So, okay, it's not cheap as it was before, but for, I'd say, the leader in this AI race by far, and one that actually makes billions of dollars thanks to AI, because we've heard a lot of companies talk about AI, but very few of them actually make money. Well, yeah, maybe the market is willing to pay a premium, let's say, for this quality name. Of course, Nvidia is yet to report earnings. They report, I believe, May 28, so we'll cover that as well. But right now, this is already very, very good news. NVLink Fusion is, of course, again, Jensen and Nvidia being 3 steps ahead. And so that's about it for me. What do you think? Did you enjoy Computex? Of course, there is still, I think, Lisa Su and AMD are yet to talk at Computex, so I'll review that in the next couple of days as well. But what do you think about NVLink Fusion? Have you been adding to Nvidia? Let me know down in the comment section below. Like, subscribe to all of that, and I'll see you all in the next one. Bye bye.